I can't think of a better year where I felt like I was really making the impact I wanted to make. Even though we had a lot of drama, I got to accomplish everything I set out to accomplish, which was driving the profession forward in really cool ways. And reflecting back now a few months later, and I'm really proud of what we did.
I got Dr. Brett Kessler, former president of the American Dental Association, with me. Super inspiring story. We'll go into it a little bit here, but really what I wanted to cover with you today is some of the bigger things that we need to tackle as a society. Some of the things that the younger leaders should be really thinking about workforce development wise in the United States. We're at a really fast changing environment here, and your wisdom and the things that you've been through, I want to hear it.
I was talking with my predecessor, Dr. Linda Edgar, president that I served under as president-elect. And, we hadn't talked since I left office. But I was talking to her there was about 2 or 3 weeks where I just needed to completely detox for a little while. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks to stop twitching because we had there were so many emails and texts and things that I had to address in the moment for a full year. And, and then it went to zero. And so it took me a little time to detox from that and rebuild my life and try and figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
The interesting part is they talk about these astronauts and they've trained and they get to the moon. And then they come back to the earth and they're like, well, a lot of them turn alcoholics and have all this terrible time. So tell me about that experience. You've risen to some tremendous ranks. How have you grounded yourself again? And what do you want to accomplish these days?
Yeah, well, I already did the alcoholism thing, so that's in the past. I don't have to go there again. And I prepared myself I knew that it was going to be a blank page and I would have to figure out how I want to write my next chapter. The year in leadership was probably the most challenging year of my life. And I used an accumulation of all the tools I picked up through experience over the years and to lead, which I thought was very effectively. And, but it was one of the best years of my life. I can't think of a better year where I felt like I was really making the impact I wanted to make. Even though we had a lot of drama, I got to accomplish everything I set out to accomplish, which was driving the profession forward in really cool ways. And reflecting back now a few months later, and I'm really proud of what we did last year and under my term. There's a defined beginning date and a defined ending date, and that wasn't negotiable. And so I was going to maximize every single day because I knew once that was over, it was over. And I feel like I let Dr. Rosado, the current president, in a real good spot with a lot of good momentum, and he's going to take it to another level. He's one of those leaders that I believe will go down as one of the best in the ADA's recent history. I'm really excited for him and what he's doing with the leadership at the organization right now. And the profession is going to gain because of that. And we're going to get great access to care, and we're going to make sure our members stay successful.
You certainly got my attention, right? So I'm a young leader, and I got out of dental school about 2.5 years ago, and I had a chance to meet you in Washington. And one of the coolest things that you did was you took everyone for a run in the morning. Yeah. And literally it must have been 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, right? Real early, right to the Washington Monument. I didn't even have my sneakers. I forgot that I was going.
I remember you showed up in your dress shoes.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck it,
awesome.
I'll run, whatever. And that was such an awesome thing. And now reflecting back, now that I actually have the discipline together, that I'm actually working out every morning, and I'm I'm learning about the importance of protein as we grow older and stuff like this. I just, I know you went through a phase of addiction, and then you got out of that, and you made your own practice, and you did all this stuff. How did you prepare yourself, and how did you actually get to that rank of the president of the American Dental Association? Like, what does that mean?
Well, I went into, so first of all, I was a member of ASDA when I was in dental school, but I wasn't active. And my first job after my GPR, my boss, was pretty direct about this. He's like, listen, if we are to remain a profession, everybody has to do something to contribute to the profession. At very least, you need to be a member of the ADA. I feel so strongly about this that I'm going to pay for your membership as part of the benefit package for working for me. I'm like, okay, whatever. And, and then I hit my bottom with addiction, and I called the Michigan Dental Association where I was living at the time, and they directed me to help. I attribute that phone call to the beginning of my recovery. I attribute that phone call to ultimately what saved my life. And as I got better, in addiction and mental illness, your brain is just trapped and it's so small. It can't see past wanting to get that fix. And once that obsession was removed, the creativity part of my brain started to light up. And so I set out to do that. I set out to try to be the best dentist I can be, studying with Dawson, studying at the Pankey Institute, and, ultimately moving to Colorado after a few years of being in Michigan. But when I moved to Colorado, I had to apply for my license. And when I applied, I had to answer some questions about my substance abuse. And I answered them truthfully because that's what we do. And I was knowing full well they would probably put me on a monitoring contract, and I was okay with that. Random drug tests. So we had monitors that would come and make sure I'm practicing at the level of care for the state of Colorado. I have to get some sheets signed from going to recovery meetings. I was doing it anyway. It was fine, and I was okay with it. It was a cost of doing business. A few months after being in practice in Colorado, I get a letter from the state of Michigan, where I still had my license active, with a fine. It said letter of admonition, and I got fined like $1,500. And I'm like, what's this? So I called them up and they said, well, you got disciplined in another state and you didn't report it to us. And I said, I didn't get disciplined anywhere. Well, yeah, you were put on probation in Colorado. I'm like, yeah, but that's just a monitoring, contract. And well, that probation is punitive. And I was like, all I did was seek help for my addiction, and I'm getting penalized for this. It pissed me off.
I bet.
Good. A year or two later, the Colorado Dental Association, I'm actually wearing my Colorado Dental Association vest there. But they were having a sunset review committee. And sunset review in Colorado is every 10 years. They would look at the Dental Practice Act and, look, where does it need to be updated? And so I decided to get on that because in the Practice Act, it said, if you're ever placed on probation, you could never serve on the State Board of Dental Examiners. And I was like, oh, I never wanted to serve on the State Board of Dental Examiners in any way, shape, or form. But I was like, again, what the heck? Why am I getting penalized for seeking to get treatment for a chronic progressive disease that I have? And so I joined this committee, and it was the first time that I came out professionally to colleagues of mine that I had a substance abuse problem in the past. I was at a point in my life where I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Why am I ashamed to talk about it?
Must have been a little bit of hesitation, right? Like, how did you kind of conquer that?
I was pissed, and I didn't want to have this ding on my license. I didn't want to have my future dictated because all I did was seek help. I never practiced below the standard of care. Dentistry was solid. And so when I came out and talked to these elders and leaders in the organization, they just embraced me with open arms. They encouraged me. They took me under their wings. And they put me to work, basically. And it felt great. I felt like I was going to be able to help soon after I became the wellness person in Colorado. So now I'm answering the phones for when my colleagues are hitting their bottoms. And I've directed hundreds of my colleagues here in Colorado and across the country towards recovery and towards help. In the meantime, I'm growing my practice. I started a practice from scratch in Northeast Denver. And
you were telling me you used to run every morning and deliver your advertisement just to people, just to get some patients in the door. And then you turn it into this incredibly successful thing.
Yeah, we started it in a brand new neighborhood in Northeast Denver. And there was maybe a couple hundred homes when we opened up. And I was like, I could send out mailers by mail, or I could just, on my morning run, I could just go drop off the flyers on patients on my neighbor's porch. And that built my practice early on. But in the meantime, I'm growing this private practice, fee-for-service, high-end cosmetic practice that I wanted to have.
But by the way, for those of you that haven't run the business life, that is not an easy task. Like, you have to hire people, you got to make standard operation procedures, you have all these certifications, you got to get all this stuff. Like, it's serious business. It's like hard work.
But I'll tell you, if whoever's listening, just learn this: you don't ever have to do it alone. I hired coaches, I had mentors. Again, I'm on this inspired path, right? And I'm doing what you're doing. I'm trying to, go after people that inspired me and ask them, for help and share their experiences with me so I can learn from them. And that's what I did. And so, and I'm growing this practice, and then, I'm getting these great accolades for my work and especially my contribution to the community. And then I get a call from Metro Denver Dental Society. Again, I'm not really active, just doing my thing. I'm serving here and there, going to the CDA meetings or MDDS meetings, Metro Denver Dental Society.
Okay,
And
pause for 1 second.
Okay.
Because
Time
so
out.
okay,
Okay.
so what
You got me
what
fired
age,
up.
what age were you when your practice was kind of, you were starting to see patients consistently, you were answering all these phone calls? How old were you approximately?
32.
32.
33.
And walk me, how many hours a day were you working? Like not I got my job, but like actually like trying to push your life forward. Like how many hours a day were you doing? Like did you have any downtime during the day?
Well, so we started from scratch. And so I remember opening up the key on the door, unlocking it on that first day. And I, kind of push the door open, and I stick my head outside, look left and look right. And I'm like, hope someone comes.
What time though?
So
what time in the morning did you get there?
Oh, on average, probably 7 a.m.
Yeah. So you got up early. You got to the office at 7.
And I had already worked out and done all sorts of things.
And then what time would you get out?
It was kind of unhealthy, I'll be honest with you.
Well, these stories that people need to hear.
I was there till dinner.
Yeah,
My
right
wife
there.
is an orthodontist, and we opened this together. We had 2 kids at the time, and and after, when I'm working in a practice trying to get everything perfect, and once in a while she would come down with the kids and just say, "Hey, remember us? Come on back home." I was so focused on trying to get this thing up and running, and I recognized that I was going to burn out, and I was going to burn out really fast. And so
how many months did you do that?
the whole first year.
Yeah. So 12 months of 15-hour days. Guys, for anyone watching, right, you want to get to excellence in life? Welcome to what Alex Hormozi calls the valley of despair.
That's right.
Right?
This didn't come.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
And I was joking around with a conversation with a friend of mine, and I'm an overnight success after 20 some years of like these kind of long days, right? And it just, you got to put in the work. I had a coach who helped me get this thing off the ground. And my coach, before we had a single patient booked, told me to take out the calendar and book out 6 weeks of vacation that year. And I was like, no, I don't have a nickel to rub together, 2 nickels to rub together. I haven't had a patient yet, haven't earned anything. You're telling me to take 6 weeks of vacation.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm telling you that. And if you don't do it, I'm not going to work with you. But I was really inspired by this guy, and I wanted him to work with me. And, so 6-8 weeks in, we took our first vacation. We didn't go anywhere, couldn't afford it, but I didn't go into the office, and we did stuff around Colorado. He's like, you're going to burn out, and you need to schedule this in. If you don't schedule it in proactively, it's never going to happen. And it was a scary week because, the income machine was shut off. And my wife and I are the income machines. And so we came back that following week and more than doubled what our base average weekly collections were.
Wow.
And we doubled now the set point is double what it was. So we more than made up for that week off. And now we've raised that set point to a new level.
Wow.
And I think we produced like 675,000 that first year out of from zero. And I felt pretty good about that.
Damn right. And this was a couple years ago.
2003.
Yeah. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal in 2003. Yeah. I applaud the younger version of yourself. I wish I could have done it,
But again, I'll emphasize again, working with that coach, I'm very vision driven. I'm very intentional with my life. He made me create a business model, a business plan. Okay. And it was this document that was like, 80, 90, 100 pages long. And, it was very detailed on what I wanted to do, based on, the employees that I wanted to attract to work with me, the patients that I wanted to serve, the kind of procedures that I love to do, the design of the practice, down to the colors of the carpeting and the walls, why everything had a reason. When I went and I shopped this around to different banks and I met with the banker, I got all dressed up, shook their hands and handed them my little business plan. And all they did was open it up to the spreadsheets of the financial projections.
Show me the numbers.
And I was
That's
pissed. Right. And I'm complaining to my coach, and I'm like, they're not even looking at everything else I got. He's like, no, Brett, that's what their job is. It's the numbers. You wrote that business plan for you. What do you mean? Your dream is in that 80, 90 page document and it's articulated. Now go make it happen. And so that's what we did. And again, overnight success, but it was, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. And it became a really nice practice, the practice of my dreams, because I did envision it. When you make a vision and you write down your vision, whenever you write something down, you own those words and it becomes part of you. And that's how I work. And I did that. And I've done that probably 4 or 5 times since I got sober, when I was 30 years old, and different chapters of my life with different visions. Okay.
Before we go there, because this is very important, with the advent of ChatGPT, okay, you said 90 pages I wrote down. You had to write that. Yeah.
Yep.
So one question for you: technology is changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can get a 90-page business plan by talking to ChatGPT for half an hour.
Right.
Do you think that's the same?
On paper.
Okay, so it's not the same.
But does it become part of you? Can you make that statement that you may or may not have written, the concepts you thought of, but can you make that statement part of you? I don't think so.
Not the same. Not even close. Okay, cool. I understand. It makes sense. But that's where we're headed. Mm-hmm. And that's what I worry about, even in my own development. The other very, very important player in this is your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And your kids. So can you walk me through how you met this incredible woman, and how, because it's a well-known fact that men actually make more money when they're married to someone that understands their vision, their core values, and she was also working with you, which is a tremendous boon.
So I went into dental school not really knowing anything about dental school. I was going to be a physician, and I decided to go to dental school when my college fraternity brother said, you should really think about becoming a dentist. With your engineering background, you'd do really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all I knew, but I knew nothing about dentistry. But anyway, my wife and I started dating. We were dental school classmates our first year and got married our 4th year. So I did really well in dental school, and the girls were cute. Then we both did GPRs. She went on did an orthodontic residency at University of Michigan, and that's how we ended up in Michigan. And I remember saying at her graduation from her ortho residency program that this is my retirement party, that, because she's the orthodontist, she's going to be making the big money. And, but in her, it never happened. We were pretty equal with things. And actually I was probably 2/3 of the practice, and she was 1/3, but we have 4 kids.
And then she was probably 2/3 of the kids, right? Like
right.
Like
we have 4
yeah.
kids, and she always had this struggle, do I want to be a mom or do I want to be an orthodontist? And I always told her, I go, you can only be a mom with these kids at a certain age. We can always bend wires later. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I started my own practice was we were able to design our lives, to have our practice support our lives. And so, I would work 7 to 3, 2 days a week. And she would work 8 to 6, 2 days a week. And we'd cross over on those days. And if I was working 7 to 3, she was taking the kids to school in the morning, and 3 o'clock, I'm off. I'm going to get the kids, and I'm picking them up, taking them to their things.
Did you guys in dental school have the core values lined up like that? Like you guys were both that scheduled, or did that happen over time?
No, we just went with the flow. And, I was kind of a mess in dental school, emotionally with my addiction. I really wasn't, all that balanced. I did very well, and I was a great student. I was a great practitioner, won some awards, but, I was still keeping the secret of my addiction that, finally hit a head when I was in my 3rd year of practice. After I got sober, that's when I got inspired to live my best life and try and maximize my impact on the world. I mean, it started out with trying to be the best dentist I could possibly be. Then, it turned into, really helping out the communities that we're serving. So that's, we just kind
You
of
got the technical skill, right? You want to be useful first and foremost,
exactly.
then do something. Okay, cool. So back to your story, sir.
So my vision, my last vision I created in 2018, it was the year I turned 50. And I asked myself, what do I want to do with the second half of my life? What do I want to do with the second half of my career? Where can I make the biggest impact? And so that was the year so I turned 20 years sober, first of all, so it's a big milestone for me. It was the year we decided to sell the practice. And we were both kind of getting burned out from it and wanted to look at something different. So we wanted to sell the practice. That was also the year that I decided to run for the board of trustees of the ADA. And it was the year that I did my first Ironman race. So at 50 years old, I've been doing triathlons from the early 90s. So while I was, in dental school, but this is the first time where I went big, and I ended up doing the Ironman in Kona, Hawaii, the World Championships. So 50 years old was a big year for me. No, it wasn't 90 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this one was, I want to maximally, so at 50, I was like, I want to impact. And so I said, I want to maximally contribute to the profession and the organization that has given me so much, meaning the ADA and the profession of dentistry. And, and that's when I decided to run for the board, because I can maximally contribute. The opportunity presented is like, hey, I can run for the board this year. And I did it and I won. And then, so I've got this vision out there. Every decision that comes across me here in the present, and does that decision bring me closer to the vision, or does it bring me further away from the vision? And, and I coach a lot of people, and I say, if it keeps bringing you away from the vision, maybe the vision's wrong and you can change it. It's your life, do it. But if this is your vision and you're diligent to it, and so I kept taking responsibilities that would bring me closer to that maximally contributing to the profession and organization that I love so much, just given me so much. I was on certain committees at the board. I was offered to be the representative to the National Academy of Medicine's Clinician Wellbeing Initiative. And I was, one of the editors of the paper that we wrote, and it was headed by the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy at the time. I was dentistry's representative on the clinician well-being crisis that we were in. Brings me, everything in that mission. It never said you're going to be president of the ADA. It never said that. It said I wanted to maximally contribute. And then when it came time to, can I actually do this? Can I run for this office? And it was a campaign for political office. It was, I had to raise money. I had to get campaign professionals. I had branding experts. I had communication experts, strategy experts, and I had pods of people working on my behalf all over the country. And, and again, I'm an endurance athlete and I do these crazy races, but I never think I'm going to win. I'm not that fast. It was always me versus me. Right. And I just wanted to get better and, and give my best day each day. I love the process and the journey, and then to showcase it in running. But I never thought I would win a race. Here I am in a campaign. You're the winner or you're the first loser. Okay. I never had, all the eggs in one basket. And so I had people on my behalf helping me, keeping me, in the right state of mind, showing up as my best self. And it was scary, I'll be honest with you. Go ahead.
Tell me about politics, Dr. Kessler. Tell me, one of the biggest ways to make change in society is to influence people, right? So we have all these influencers on the web, we have all this TikTok and stuff. But politics is law, right? Politics is like you're getting some serious shit here. So how do you start thinking? Did you resent parts of what you had to do? Did you what?
No. I'll say no. I'm going to say no on that right off the bat, because I consider myself a leader, but I had to play in the political arena.
Straight up.
Okay. And I would get offended when people call me dental politician, but that it sounds dirty. In the 20 some years I've been sober, a lot of introspection goes into that. Learning about how my brain works, learning who I truly am and what I stand for and where I want to go. And so I never wavered with my of who I was. Okay. I never wavered. And so I didn't play politics. If you didn't like me, and that was part of the thing is, I know that I'm not for everybody, that my ideas were, usually way ahead of what most of the old leadership guard was ready to accept. And if I've got this one opportunity to go across the country and share my ideas of where the profession is going and where the ADA needs to go to make sure it happens, and just plant seeds, I'd be okay with that. No, I never thought I'd win, but I really wanted to win. A few months before, early on in the process, one of my coaches asked me why I wanted to do it. And I told her, but then she said, well, who do you have to become to be the president of the American Dental Association? What do you mean? You're going to have to grow to hit this big, hairy, audacious goal. And you're going to be a different person. And that stuck with me. And about 9 months into a 12-month campaign, I was doing my introspective journaling and meditation and stuff like that. And I came to this conclusion that I was growing in ways I never expected to. And I really loved the person I was becoming. And if I win, that's icing on the cake. If I lose, I feel the universe is preparing me for something else, that I'll be able to use these new skills and attributes and tools in my toolbox to realize the vision of maximally contributing to the profession and the organization that has given me so much. So I guess I trusted the process.
Thank you for going into that. Seriously. Were these also 15-hour days?
Oh, longer?
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool.
And but I don't want this to sound like that I am kind of crazy, absolutely. But I really try to live a balanced life. And I know when I need to recharge and reset so I can rally. And I schedule time every single day to do that. Sometimes it's through working out. Sometimes it's a dedicated, meditation time in the morning. Sometimes it's getting with a coach, getting with a psychologist when I need it. Keeping my recovery is the first and foremost thing. And, it's all about mindfulness to really, really know who I am and what I stand for and what I can do and how I need to take care of myself in the meantime. And every day I had to I've got a mission statement that I read. It's on my phone on the home screen. And I read it in the morning, and it basically reminds me, I rolled out all the different roles that I play and described how do I best show up in each of these roles, just as a reminder. And so it's my true north. I'm not perfect by any means, but it's a reminder of who I want to be and what I want to do so I can show up as my best self. And I wish more people would tap into this, and that I guess will lead to my next chapter. I am starting a leadership development coaching company, and I want to be able to help people find their voice, find their true north, find out who they are, what they stand for, what they want to do, because so many of us are burned out in this profession, and so many of us just kind of lost their way. And they drifted from that true north, and it's been a quiet drift. And so I want to help people stay on that path and make their impact, because everybody is here for a reason. And I think we owe that to whatever power you believe in from a spiritual standpoint. We owe that to that power to express our purpose through our actions here.
So, okay. Now we have two directions that we can go. I can ask you a bunch of questions that I came up with, or I can ask you more about this leadership development stuff, because this is mutually interesting.
Where do you want to go, Trev?
Let's go leadership development. So without giving away, no one can do what you can do, Dr. Kessler, right? Like, you could put your entire business plan on the internet. No one can do it the way you can do it. What are you building out courses? Are you what's your strategy with this?
Yeah, so I'm building out courses. I'm building out time for mastermind groups with different like-minded or similar demographic age-wise in professional development, trying to put out some events where retreats and things like that, where we can do deep dives on growth opportunities with different focuses. I'm a wellness is my core for everything, because if we can be well, if we're not well, we can't contribute to the world to their maximal extent. So it's all about aligning yourself with your purpose, and that's where greatest wellness comes in. And it's, in your core values, who you are, what you stand for, what your mission is, like I showed, developing that for a personal standpoint, and then developing a vision for your future and in increments that, I never, like I said, I never wanted to go to dental school. I just kept finding inspiration as I walk along this path. And I've got this observation: when I'm on an inspired path, like angels come on that path with a message for me. And sometimes it's a message like, oh, black clouds on the horizon, better, think about where you're going, or, encouragement, keep pushing. And you never know who those angels are. You never know when they're gonna come. You never know what they're gonna say, but I'm always looking for the messages. And like I think back when you and I met, we had a great conversation at that little restaurant that the event was held at. And then you showed up the next day with your long pants and your dress shoes wanting to run with us. And I remember the great conversation we had, and that led to this, right? But you can do it intentionally, and you are. I am. No, you're doing. So I look back. Remember when I opened up my practice for the first day, and I opened up the door and I looked and I left. It's scary when you're doing this because you don't know the outcome. But I set myself up for success, but it wasn't linear. It was heart attack growth curves, extreme highs, extreme lows, extreme highs, extreme lows. But if you draw a line through it, it's nice and smooth.
How do you? Well, you're one of the lucky people that have a partner in the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some sort of emotional support. Obviously, you mentioned that you still have, if you need to go and see a psychiatrist or something, like, you'll get that help.
Yep.
So let's talk about the mental aspect of things in the context of leadership. So in leadership development, one of the things that I advocate for is having some unwind time. I'm still I'm right at there on the 15 hours. I'm kind of fluctuating, not nearly as consistent as probably you were, but I still got a couple of years to do it. As far as, what would you say to a young person that comes out of dental school? Let's take a step back. Is the leadership program for dentists?
The concepts that I want to share are universal. My platform happens to be dentistry.
Damn right.
That's where I'm most known.
Yeah.
But the concepts are universal.
And
So-
where would you tap into those folks? Would it be when they're in high school? Would it be when they're in college? Would it be when they're in dental school, or afterwards?
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And
Sure.
so I'm mentoring dental students right now. I'm mentoring a pre-dental student right now. I'm
That's
mentoring
incredible.
young dentists right now. I'm mentoring mid-career dentists. It's
That's incredible.
the consistency amongst all of these different people is that they're in a growth mindset. They want to grow. They're trying to find out their niche and how they're going to, execute their success action plan. And they don't know, a lot of times, I didn't know what my success action plan was. I didn't know what success was. I thought success was being the best damn dentist I could possibly be. And that's what I set out to do. And along that path, I found that, yes, I wanted to be, and I became the best dentist I could possibly be. I was really, really great practitioner. I loved it. I loved the impact I made on my patients. But I also loved the impact I was making on the community. And I loved the aspect that I was able to help provide, access to those that had no access. And, so I did all these things along that path, just came along the path. But it was very intentional once I recognized it, because I had those visions out there.
But
It was great.
You got all these different age groups that you're mentoring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous, incredible hard work. Thank you for doing this, by the way. When you talk about emotional wellness, to say someone in college versus someone that's a seasoned vet versus someone that's in dental school. Can you walk me through how you would kind of communicate that?
So when I look at wellness, I look at 5 aspects, and I look at emotional wellness and mental wellness. Okay, so I'm looking at that. So mental wellness for me is, I define it as trying to find ways to grow your brain on a regular basis. So if I'm talking to a young dentist or a dental student, they are in a major learning phase in their lives. So their mental wellness is being filled with all this information they're trying to do. But as you get older, you don't learn with the same vigor that you have to while you're a young dentist or while you're in dental school. You don't have boards to make sure you pass for competencies and things like that. So we have to find ways to keep our brains sharp, so read books, listen to podcasts, 10 classes, so any way to keep your brain sharp over time. Okay, so we look at that's mental wellness. Emotional wellness I define it as, do your very best to experience the emotions to the fullest extent in the moment. And if you can't, seek help for that. And I'm talking about, joy. I'm also talking about angst. And, we are high achievers. High achievers don't like to show any signs of weakness. They don't like to ask for help. They don't like to look bad in any way, shape, or form. And so we develop coping mechanisms along the way to protect us from failure. They worked for us because it got us this far. But I could tell you, stuffing them will always come back to haunt. They come back after years and years and years. So that trauma that you may have experienced as a teenager that you just shoved down to protect yourself, all of a sudden 20 years later comes out in ways and behaviors that are a lot of times not very healthy. So we develop these coping mechanisms. Sometimes they're healthy coping mechanisms, sometimes they're unhealthy. Mine was addiction, drugs, alcohol. That was my thing, and it turned into something really ugly, and I almost died from it. And so and even as, as a leader, I had one of those situations where I helped save a friend of mine from drowning. He died in front of me in the water, and I got him up on the boat and got him revived. And that opened up some weird ass stuff from way back that really put things in perspective. And I sought help for it because I became very despondent right after I was elected to become president-elect. Wow. I was like, this is going to derail my entire hopes of being the best possible president I could be, because I don't care right now.
Right.
And so I had to deal with that, and I happily dealt with it because of what I wanted to accomplish. And I had to uncover a lot of that stuff that I had stuffed decades before. And so
let's talk about that specific thing that you're talking about, the emotional, to let that stuff out, right? Mm-hmm. So there's certain avenues to let that stuff out. If you have a significant other, like, you can only let so much stuff out, right? They got their own stuff going on. You can't just continue to, badger them with stuff. But like, what is the utility of talking to strangers about this stuff?
There's a fear. Okay, that, who is this person going to tell somebody is, but if it's a professional, whether it's a coach, a psychologist, whatever, they're bound by their, anonymity, and whatever happens between you and that person stays between you and that person. So once you get over that and develop the trust where you can actually talk about things, what I've learned over the years is that I'm dug in with my talons into this meat, okay, through my emotions. And all I can see is this meat in front of me. Someone who's not attached emotionally out there can offer perspective that I can't see because I'm attached so much. And, and our brains are really interesting supercomputers that, have different ways to get into the core issues. And sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes not. And so, you got to go through the process of what your brain is protecting and, versus what it's willing to open up to. Throughout my life, I've always had a coach at my side, and I've had a whole plethora of mentors that saw things in me that I didn't see in myself, and acknowledged them and helped me acknowledge them and helped guide me to explore them. And I'm the product of a village of people. It's not just me, figuring all this out. I enlisted so much help along the way, these angels on the path, like I described. And,
So
and I'm
what
so
what do
grateful
you
for that.
what do you give to an angel? Right? So say you're a human being, an angel comes from wherever, right? What are angels looking for, Dr. Kessler?
Like I said, they saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And I'll give you a story. Okay. So I studied at the Pankey Institute, and, and I started my practice, and I'm doing a lot of like occlusal therapy, a lot of bite splints and things like that. And in the meantime, I'm a host for a speaker at the Rocky Mountain Dental Convention here in Denver. And the speaker is Leanne Brady, who was, one of my idols, one of the best dentists in the world. She's the clinical director at the Pankey Institute. So she and one of my Pankey mentors, Dr. Cliff Lidvack, another dentist here in Colorado, one of the best dentists I've ever met, one of my best friends. When you go to the Pankey Institute, they encourage you to get a mentor, and so that's how I found him. So after the presentation that they gave, I made dinner reservations that night for the three of us, and 6:30, and so I get there at 6:30, and I'm there by myself. It's 6:45, they're not there yet. 7 o'clock, they're not there yet. 7:15, they're not here, and I'm pissed. I'm like, what the, this is, So it turns out they were late because they were treatment planning my life for me. I didn't know this at the time, but we sat down and they just started digging right in and asking me really, really deep questions in a loving, caring way that I'll never forget it. So we're talking about, how's the practice going, Brett? And, I'm in my first year, I'm running out of money, and, it's time to sink or swim. And they're like, well, how much operative are you doing? I'm like, well, my patients are healthy. There's not a lot of cavities. There's not a lot of gum disease. You doing a lot of bite splints, Brett? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a ton of bite splints. And that's, because they're so stressed, they've got issues. And they're like, okay, well, how many equilibrations are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? You know how to do equilibrations, right? Yeah. I mean, I taught you is basically what they said. Why aren't you doing them? And I'm like, I don't, I'm just fumbling. I had no answer. And they're like, Brett, you know what you're doing. You know what's in the best interest of your patients. You believe that, right? I'm like, yeah. Why aren't you doing them? Go do them. It's going to open up all these other things to you. You're dipping your toes in the hot tub, or you're going to jump in. That's what a mentor is. That's what that angel metaphor is for me. So they saw things in me. They knew I was struggling throughout the day. They're asking me about the practice, and they could just tell by my energy and how I'm answering it that I'm not completely there yet, right? And they know something. They were ready to dig, and I'm forever grateful for that night, for them being 45 minutes late to dinner. Because it changed my life.
You can only ever see, right, the layer that you're at. Oh my goodness. That's an incredible story. And if they have a chance to watch this, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I've thanked them many times over this.
Well, now I get, as someone learning from you, I get to thank them too, right? It's like that's the beautiful thing about life. Cool. So, okay, you said something about masterminds. You said something about events. What? Okay, so for a while I've been philosophizing about human beings gathering and tradition and how tradition is kind of this affirmation of like a belief, right? Or like a gathering is like an affirmation of a belief. Where do you think the power of gathering is? And in the things that you intend to do, how do you think it's going to impact these folks over time?
I learned from Brene Brown that we're wired for connection, human beings, that we're wired for connections. But dentistry is a lonely road, especially private practice dentistry. We're siloed. We're the kings or queens of our castle, but we have no idea what goes outside of our four walls of our practices. And we don't want to know because we don't want to expose our weaknesses. And I think when you get out of, and even in, the larger group practices too, there's better convening and connection going on, but still it's not to the level that it that we as human beings need to be connecting with each other. And so, in my path, I've been to many different retreats, and you get out of your environment, and it's almost a hard reset that happens, or an opportunity for a hard reset, because you're out of your environment, you're out of your routine, and there's something that can happen. Yeah, you and I talking here, but we're both in our comfort zones, in our environments, but it was magic when we met in Washington, because you were there to learn. You had no idea what you were going to learn. And I had no idea it was the first time the ADA had ever done this kind of event. And, so
I think it was just specifically a leadership event too.
I was just excited to experience it and contribute it. I didn't know how, but in ways that I, could, and share what I could, when I felt it was appropriate. And that's what I was able to do. So the power of getting out of your environment to get that opportunity for reset, the growth really happens. So those are kind of things, wellness retreats, planning retreats, specific, topics, if it's like-minded dentists who have similar issues, collaborative business retreats, mastermind groups where we can, discuss, some, big concepts that the group will be facing in real time, and the group grows from sharing of experiences. And by me sharing with you one of my experiences, it goes into your hippocampus, and now it's in your memory system, and you will now be able to access that toolbox later as if it were your own. And that's what happens when these, when human beings connect in that way.
And the value of a single connection. I mean, I've so many times, almost every single time I've gone to a conference, right? Just by virtue of maybe who I am or the laws of the universe or something, there's always someone that I end up walking away with. I'm like, this is amazing. I get to spend a tremendous amount of time with this person. Again, exchange those ideas.
It fires you, and it gets you all fired up and energized, but there's a decay with that over time, or it starts to degrade. And I'm someone who seeks constant inspiration from any sources that I can get it from. And I can find ways to incorporate it into my path. And I think you're the same.
Absolutely. So I technically have 9 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes.
Is that okay?
We can always have more. We can have another one at another time too.
I'm going to bug you for sure.
Okay.
Because we'll talk about this stuff later. So philanthropy.
Yeah.
What thoughts? So I had a really beautiful podcast with a hygienist who became a dentist, and now he's on some boards and stuff like this. And he was like, healthcare is half for-profit, half non-for-profit. And I was like, oh, that's a beautiful idea. What are your thoughts about that? Like how for the dentist that's playing into all this stuff, that wants to go into the service stuff, more than half of us, probably all of us, go into it for that reason. And then we end up getting hit by business, and we're like, wait a second. Talk to me about philanthropy, Dr. Kessler.
Early in my practice startup, I go to recovery meetings, and I meet a lot of people in these recovery meetings on a regular basis. And I'm a dentist, so all I do is look at people's teeth, right? And I know when people can truly express their emotions through smiling. I could tell when people are in pain. I can see infection across the room, and there were some people in these recovery meetings that were just on fire with life because of their recovery, but the scars of their addiction were still on their face. And so I got to know them. And I told them I was a dentist, and I started a service project out of my office to help these people. And I found out they were from a treatment center called Sobriety House here in Denver, Colorado. It's the oldest treatment center in Denver, and it serves the homeless population, gets them off the street, gets them sober, gets them clothes, feeds them, gets them healthy, gives them vocational training, and gets them back out to work. And so I develop a program. If they stay in treatment, sometimes 6 months, 12 months that they're in treatment, I'll fix their teeth for free. And that became a big part of my leadership. It opened up a lot of doors in my leadership pathway, because other treatment centers started to call me and ask me if I could do it for them too. And I wish I could, but I'm trying to develop a business here, and I got to get my ends meet. And so I called Metro Denver Dental Society and I asked them if they knew of any dentists that were volunteering in this way. And they said, no, but this is an amazing thing you're doing. Let's write an article about it in the journal and see if we can get other dentists to help out. And so they wrote an article and got 3 or 4 other dentists to help these other treatment centers. And that turned into a foundation that Metro Denver Dental Society started called the Smile Again program, which now has like 700 dentists in Denver who were, volunteering to treat 1 or 2 patients. And, and then in my leadership trajectory, when I was on the board of Colorado Dental Association, and actually the year I became president, I was on the team that helped develop a dental benefit in the Medicaid space here in Colorado. So now 300,000 people had access to a dental home that didn't have it before. And these were my people. These were the sobriety house people that were caught, down and out on their luck and wanted to get better. And, and so the Smile Again program ended up, falling to the wayside because we got access for those that didn't have it. So,
but what scale? I mean, that's,
but it's just doing the next right thing, sharing about it, and, in a benevolent mindset. It's not about me. It's about trying to get these people help. It's about trying to, serve our communities in ways that only we dentists can serve. And, and that's the definition of the profession is, that we find access for those that don't have it. And we make our communities healthier as a result. And not just like their own health, but the economy of the community gets better too. Everything grows when we're able to do this. And, and that turned into like media stories about the work I was doing.
Okay. So excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Kessler. Seriously, I'm working on a lot of the, little things that are probably going to lead to similar things, I assume, in the future. And serious honor to touch base with you. And thank you for everything you're doing. If I can be of service in any way, reach out.
Wow, this was great to connect with you again. I know you're on an inspired path, and I know you're doing this podcast to learn from people, but also to amplify. Yeah, so you learn from people, you learn your voice. I believe in karma, and I'm a living example of it. You're a living example of it, and you're going to do amazing things, and I'm happy to be part of that.
I've met another angel today. Thank you, sir. I'll let you go. I'm sure you have things to prepare for. So thank you, Dr. Kessler. Take care.
We will talk soon, Travis. Help anyone who's out there. Thank you for listening. If there's anything I could do, please don't hesitate.